Hey, welcome to the show. We would have been here earlier, but we were having some technical difficulties. It's what happens. What are
Well,
you gonna do?
I can approximate this for people. You ever try and feed a toddler and you push the spoon towards their mouth and they go, "No." Rumble was doing that for like 20 minutes this morning.
Yeah, right.
Watcher blames Rumble. I blame Watcher. It's a circle of life. And then Joe just sits there and eats popcorn. While
It was bacon, but yes.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Today we're talking Russia-Ukraine peace, instigating insurgency of the domestic variety on the Council for Future Conflicts, episode 514. My name is Scott. Below me is Joe and Watcher. And Joe, how you doing today, brother?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a good weekend, getting ready for all the folks who are going to be arriving this week. A lot to do before classes start on Friday, but we're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a good time. And, we're just going to roll with it. We're going to make something happen, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good event. Looking forward to it.
Watcher, I see that one of my favorite couples, the Cannons, you know who you are. You watch the show. See them register yesterday, so I'm excited to see them. So good times. Sorry.
Very good. That's great. Watcher, how you doing?
Discombobulated. But good. Woke up and like every single audio setting in my computer was changed and didn't want to go back, and yeah, just technical issues galore this morning. But doing good. Chicken coop's up. That poor little baby chick died. So anybody out there who had been following that saga, it's over.
Well, feed it to your cat
this Monday morning.
Yeah. But apart from that, like I said, that coop we've been working on's up. So if you are a poor looking to launch your own small chicken farm, I just gave you excellent designs for a 100 chicken coop. So enjoy that.
Very cool. I'm glad you're enjoying the old chicken farming thing. That's great. So, gentlemen, let's jump right into it, shall we? We've got we got a late start, so we got to get the show on the road. All right, Joe. India, Pakistan. Who do you think won it?
The American consumer. Because during the middle of it, there was a marked reduction in phone calls. So, in all honesty, the fact, though, that Pakistan is still standing and that they were able to shut off the Indian power, I'm going to have to vote Pakistan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got a story here, and it has an opinion on that. I'm just going to hit some of the bullet points here. So basically, the article basically comes out and says, it argues that India emerged stronger, but it also kind of acknowledges mixed opinions because, let's be honest, neither side gave it their all. There was some interesting stuff, like with the water being shut off. I mean, there, some tactics that I guess you could call novel that were used. A suspended water treaty and a new military doctrine on the part of India. Ultimately, a U.S. mediated ceasefire kind of slowed things down. And let's be honest, both of the sides were looking for an opportunity to exit stage right on this. Neither one of them wanted a conflict. And let's be honest, neither country is able to sustain a conflict. I mean, despite all their people, these are not countries that have what you'd call a giant military mailed fist.
I don't know. You might be surprised at the sheer numbers that India can put up. However,
I agree.
However, both sides acknowledged that India lost fighter planes. Neither side said Pakistan lost any fighter planes. So in the win-lose column, That's a solid win for Pakistan.
Well, I think you also on the same kind of sheet of paper, maybe below it as an asterisk, you have to put a win for China on their long range missiles.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Sorry. Yeah. So I mean, the two examples of was it the PL-15? They're kind of the Chinese version of the AMRAAM. Were found on the battlefield and credited for downing Indian aircraft. So, I mean, it proves that the Chinese stuff doesn't always shit the bed. Here's some key points. India's action. India bombed Pakistani bases in response to the attack. They suspended Indus Waters Treaty and adapted a doctrine treating terrorism as an act of war. That could have some pretty interesting fallout in the future, where essentially if Pakistan doesn't actively stop the terrorists from committing events, then Pakistan could then get blamed for the same such events. Now, we all know Pakistan's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to terror efforts, right? On one hand, the ISI has been credited with assisting terrorists, and on the other hand, they've got terrorists they got to kind of keep on the leash. So, Joe, I mean, where do you think that we'll see in the future these terror efforts by Pakistan to kind of keep India from basically sending missiles every time somebody does something stupid in Kashmir?
Well, let me first of all say that this actually impacts a much wider ranging area than that, because let's be honest, India and Canada have been in a diplomatic war over Canada's support for Sikh separatists and Canada harboring Sikh separatists, most notably the Khalistan movement. So there's a bigger issue there. Second of all, the ISI supports wherever the wind blows with internal Pakistani politics, right?
Yeah.
They've got enough problems internally that I don't know that they'll continue to support the external push. In the middle of all that, we got this comment from the Balochistan Liberation Army that really raises an interesting point. If India makes this claim that they're going to attack anyone who supports terrorism inside their borders, then they therefore cannot provide material support to the BLA, or they'd be violating their own principles.
Right.
Which is what nations are known for, I guess. But
right. So let's look at Pakistan's side. So Pakistan basically that didn't have comparable outcomes, but I would say that any Pakistan supporters can be pretty happy with the defensive measures that they put up. They did impact the Indian naval, not naval, but Indian air operations in and around the border region. But let's be honest, Joe, there were no kind of strike backs by Pakistan against India that were comparable to what we saw with the long-range missile shots into Pakistan. It makes me wonder if there isn't some sort of other shoe that potentially could drop at some point in the near future. And maybe it's a deniable type of scenario where you've got, LET terrorists do something and Pakistan turns a blind eye. I mean, what do you think is there a sort of Damocles hanging over India at this point? Because Pakistan didn't get back at them.
No, but I do think that the conflict is going to continue to simmer. These two peoples have been at war with each other for roughly 1,000 years. They're not just going to suddenly make peace and be friends tomorrow, right? There's no resolution whatsoever on Kashmir or Jammu, and they're just kind of still hanging. They're still maintaining the status quo. So there's still going to be conflict. I really don't think this is actually over. I think it's been paused, but I don't think it's actually over.
Yeah, I mean, this whole ceasefire, I'm not quite sure. So this is a U.S. mediated ceasefire, and it's fragile to say the least.
There was a rumor that it was already violated yesterday. So
yeah, that I wouldn't be surprised. Absolutely, and that's kind of the modern era, right? Even though one area is ceasefire, the other one isn't. Look at these Russia-Ukraine ceasefires. I can't think of one that actually has held. And then, of course, India is denying that there was direct mediation. So, like, the idea is that India could say, "Oh, well, we didn't make a deal," right?
Well, India is one of those countries that has a serious inferiority complex, right? They're literally attached to China. They are now the most populous nation on earth, more so than China. And they like to, just like China, they like to claim that anything with the word Indian in it is theirs, like the Indian Ocean. Much like China and the South China Sea. So it really bristles them to say America mediated something, because to them that doesn't mean we mediated. It means America dictated conditions and India followed. And they're not going to like that idea. But I think Durna in the Rumble chat asked the most important question. But who had the better mustaches? And I think I dropped an image in the CFC fan chat watcher, if you can find that might explain, because this guy is clearly an Indian soldier and his mustache is epic.
Yeah, there's been some his mustache alone has a Purple Heart and 14 confirmed kills. Well, I mean, it's never met a razor that couldn't cut it though.
Yeah.
Not a big mustache. I appreciate, I guess, a stylist mustache, but I'm not a fan. I would say. All right, let me look at my notes, see if we got anything more on this to talk about. So there is this. This is kind of a little addendum that you had shared with me last night that I thought was worthy of kind of. Let me just kind of go through this a little bit. The Baloch Liberation Army from Balochistan comes amid escalating tensions between India and Pakistan following the April 2025 Falangam attack that killed 25 Indian tourists. Pakistan has accused India of supporting the BLA, which is kind of what you were just saying, labeling an Indian proxy after a May 2025 blast in Balochistan killed 7 soldiers, though no evidence has been provided. The BLA's offer to ally with India aligns with its history of targeting Pakistani forces, including 39 coordinated attacks in May of 2025, so this month, that killed 22 troops, raising regional security concerns. Historical context shows the BLA's insurgency peaked around 2006, killing a Baloch leader, with Pakistan repeatedly engaging Indian involvement without proof, alleging Indian involvement without proof. India's recent military actions, including airstrikes on Pakistani bases and suspending the Indus Water Treaty, may embolden groups like the BLA to seek closer ties. So, I mean, the interesting thing there, Joe, is that essentially the Baloch movement is aligning itself with India, whether India wants it to or not. And now that gives India the ability to be deniable, but at the same time, if they have a competent intelligence service that can funnel money, arms, or whatever support to the BLA, that puts a dilemma in Pakistan's rear. It keeps them from. It gives them maybe a way to strike back and be able to say, "What are you talking about? We didn't do nothing."
Well, if there's one thing that the Pakistanis like, it's action in the rear. Anyway,
it depends if it's a goat or not.
Because you said it. Here's the thing. Anytime something happens now with the BLA, Pakistan is going to point to this letter, whether or not India had anything to do with it.
Right.
It's not going to matter. They're just going to say, well, look, you support these people. So this letter actually, from that standpoint, harms India more than does good.
Yeah, that's a good point. Watcher, we haven't heard anything from you. Any thoughts on any of this?
Oh, just subtle thoughts in the back of my mind about where the person who stole my debit card and credit card might be from and where they might have been sending that remittance money to. And
he's not
let
trying
them
to
fight.
where, but they might speak Indian.
Yeah, let them fight.
Yeah, let them fight.
That's a fair assessment. Let's move on to our next area. So let me just say, Joe, that when people in our chat get the gumption to do something greater than what we do, or something beyond, or maybe they take some inspiration from what we do to kind of do their own thing, that gives me a lot of pride, right? And so one of our viewers has a X account called TDA Tracker 247, and it's Trinidad Tracker. He's been doing these updates on like what's going on with Trinidad around the U.S. and internationally. And I thought I would give him a plug here in front of everybody because it's good info, right? One of the things that I like when you're analyzing news and things like this, specifically conflict news, is so you got these kind of like, you got verticals and horizontals, right? So like a great example of a horizontal would be like American domestic threats, right? And one of the verticals may be like, say, Central American gangs, right? And then you can break that down by generically, or then you've got Mexican cartels, and then you've got, you've got gangs specifically, which are transnational criminal organizations, like TDA was one, and then you've got MS-13, M18. But then you've also got more politically kind of aligned groups like FARC and some of the other Venezuelan kind of influential agencies that kind of tend to. So the point is that he has identified a vertical in TDA that he's really kind of doing a deep dive on, and I very much appreciate that. I can't. What's his name in the chat? I can't remember who it is in the chat that does this post. The Trinidad Tracker.
I don't know his name in this chat. No.
Yeah, I can't. If you're in the
I
chat,
don't think that they have revealed themselves. So
all right. Well, if you're in our chat and you wanna if you want us to, if you want to take credit, then feel free. If not, yeah. All right. Let's see. So this is April 27th to May 11th. Trinidad related news, political and geopolitical news. So political, U.S. nationwide, you've got May 2nd, U.S. Customs and Border recently confirmed dozens of alleged Venezuelan TDA gang members have been arrested in the U.S.-Canadian border crossings under President Donald Trump's administration. That doesn't surprise me, Joe, that they would shift operations to coming in through Canada, as it's a lot easier to get into Canada than it probably is the southern border at this point.
Yes.
May 2nd, San Antonio apartment complex in Trinidad raid going into foreclosure. So almost like maybe the gang had something that actually a connection to that place, or maybe it's such a fucking shithole that if TDA is able to get a foothold in there, then it's just it's basically one step away from closing down. May 1st, 2025, judge bars deportation of Venezuelans from South Texas under Alien Enemies Act. I tell you what, I think there is some moves afoot for almost like a nuclear option to get around some of these judges. It'll be interesting to see what the administration does next. All right, next is Venezuela. May 9th, Venezuela seeks support from Russia and China amidst economic crisis. If Venezuela has problems, it's literally problems of their own. It's a beautiful country with an abundance of oil supply. It's almost like if you could invent a country to become rich, it would be a country like Venezuela. Yet here they are, hat in hand, putting it out for the Chinese and the Russian to fill up. Let's see. May 1st, 2025, Maduro regime denies Colombia claim that a Marxist terror group is operating in Venezuela. Well, I mean, Marxist terror is Venezuela's middle name. So
Marxist or Maoist, big difference. And it's probably more likely Maoist, but yes.
I have, outside of the Shining Path, I haven't really seen a whole lot of, I just don't know of any Maoist terror groups.
The Shining Path, Sendero Luminoso.
Well, that's what I say. Outside of the Shining Path, I don't know of any.
You said yeah, you did say that. My bad. Yeah.
I'm just kind of searching the news for Maoist terror just to see if there's something that I'm. Let's see. India, there are Maoists that are. Yeah, Shining Path in Peru, which are mostly inactive, but they're still hanging around. What's a Naxalite? That's interesting.
Yeah, the Naxalites are Maoist, but that's in India.
Yeah, that's India. Anyway, all right. So just kind of, I haven't thought about Maoist in a while. Most people aren't big fans of Mao. I mean, even the communists don't really prefer him. U.S. rescues Venezuela opposition held hostage. Did you hear about this? This opposition, this CIA special operations mission supposedly that went down in central Venezuela, like Caracas.
Yeah, like right downtown, complete with power outage and everything else in the area.
That's right. They land a plane right there in a main street, turn it around, fill it up, and then it takes right off.
Doesn't surprise me. They were hiding in a third-party embassy, so
yeah,
you can make all kinds of claims as to non-combatant evacuation or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, just a little. I'm gonna drill down just a little more of the story because this is kind of like it's like what you would see in a movie, honestly. Basically,
it's a plot to Jack Ryan season 2,
right?
But yes.
Let's see. Marco Rubio announced the rescue of 5 members of the Venezuelan Democratic Opposition Coalition who had been sheltering in place due to threats from Venezuela dictator Nicolas Maduro. The 5 opposition leaders were forced to hide in the Argentina embassy in Caracas last March after dictator Maduro increased persecution of his political opponents. Rubio claimed the Venezuelan opposition leaders were rescued through a precise operation, details which remain unknown, but that has since kind of come out as basically what I'm hearing is it was kind of a joint CIA and like Delta Force, kind of tier 1 type operation, but no bang bang shoot 'em up, just precision is the way it seems like. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. If you guys are interested in that story, feel free to go out there and drill down into that. It's pretty interesting. In Spain, Mara Salvatrucha and the Tren de Aragua seek to establish themselves after U.S. terror designation. So basically, they're hopping out of the U.S. and moving over to Spain. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if Spain's ready for MS-13 and TDA.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The Guardia Civil, the Guardia Civil in Spain is well known for being very heavy-handed when dealing with external terror groups. So good luck.
Yeah, I get the feeling the only thing that could overcome that would be piles and piles of money.
Yeah.
And you have just the right amount of corruption in Spain to where piles and piles of money can find a safe house. Let's see. End of April, captured Bucaramanga alias Pachuga alleged leader of Los Bucaros, and coordinator of the Araga train. It's a Spanish language article, so I'm not going to read any more of that. May 8th, Colombian police arrest chief financial officer for Araga train in Cucuta. Authorities say he was charged in charge of handling the finances of the criminal organization in Cucuta, including collection of extortion payments and the planning of gun attacks in commercial establishments. Let's see. Captured. Colombian authorities capture another member alleged to be a logistics. So, anyway, just a really good sum up. And this was just part 2 of that week. There was a part 1 already. And he seems like he's putting these out pretty frequently. So get out there on X and give Trende Aragua Tracker a follow. I can't believe I'm not following him. I thought I would. And it's good info. And it, as you can see, it's not just TDA, but it focuses on the kind of Central American gangs that have been marked as terrorists by the Trump administration. So, all right, moving on. Speaking of terror groups, this is a rare one, right? Like one that actually gives up the ghost. And we're talking about the PKK. Kurdish PKK disbands and ends 40-year of Turkish insurgency. Now, here's my question. I wonder how much of this is because they want to try to get some legitimacy in northern Syria or is this entirely based on in Turkey actions and maybe pressure that their leader and that Turkey's put on the organization? That would be my question.
I think it's probably more likely to know that more likely to be that Turkey has just pushed them out and is occupying all the space they used to occupy in Syria as a militant base, and they've kind of been pushed back. I would expect this to be less a stop of fighting and more of a melding in with other Kurdish groups.
Yeah, I mean, so if they here's the thing, like if it's just the PKK hanging out, but like the YPG is like we actively, resist Turkish incursions into Syria, then the PKK folks will just roll over to YPJ, and they'll continue to fight that way. But ultimately, if it's more of a kind of a reduction in the Kurdish threat against Turkey, then that could be more significant, but only time will tell. Let me just kind of read the story here a little bit. Kurdistan Workers' Party militant group, which has been locked in a bloody conflict with Turkey for more than 4 decades, decided to disband and end its armed struggle, group members and Turkish leaders said on Monday. Since the PKK launched its insurgency in 1984, originally with the aim of creating an independent Kurdish state, the conflict has killed more than 40,000 people, exerted a huge economic burden, and fueled social tensions. PKK's decision could boost NATO member Turkey's political and economic stability and encourage moves to ease tensions with neighboring Iraq and also in Syria. I mean, so like I said, only time will tell what we see with this, but bottom line is that this is good news for people in South Turkey, specifically southeastern Turkey, where a lot of this PKK violence was focused. Yeah, you guys, all of you have been watching the show long enough to know that I'm no fan of Turkey in general, or specifically Erdogan. Let me just say it this way: I'm not a fan of Erdogan. Turkey, is a mixed bag. A lot of good people there, a lot of people who I'm not in bed with, but nobody deserves a a terrorist insurgency inside their country, especially one that targets civilian targets and things like that. So it's good to see the PKK, coming to reason. Only time will tell, though, what it ends up happening here.
And as virtuous as the American media has painted the PKK, they have attacked civilian targets, and it's just something I can't deal with. I guess.
Well, yeah, and they are Marxists. They are literally doing it for communist objectives.
Yeah, Matt and I used to talk about this a lot. That the Western media really romanticized Rojava, right, and all the problems and everything. But their problem was they're communists. That's the real problem. So.
Very, very much so. All right, Joe, you want to go first? You want Brush Peter's story to go first?
Let me go first because Brush Peter's on his way here, and that rolls right into it like that. So, I've got a really big box of Brush Peter's stuff, and if you want some at a great discount, get with me before he shows up here tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. I put out a new article last night talking about training, and ironically, a lot of folks have taken their foot off the gas in training for a variety of reasons, but mostly because Daddy Trump won. And as much fun as we've had with all of the winning that's going on in that, the risk level's actually gone up, and it's still out there. And I would think that the Spain, that photo is actually from last weekend's combatives class. No, I'm just kidding. The Spain power outage should have been a big eye-opener. So anyway, I wanted to encourage folks to actually get back out and get to training. And I have updated my whole calendar, switch over to training courses. You're going to see a large number of courses like almost every weekend throughout the summer in an attempt to give you as many opportunities as possible to get out and train. There's a lot of new classes added, all kinds of different stuff, like Mountain Survival, just a general wilderness survival course. Communications for Prepared Citizen, or as I call it, RGO Light. We're going to be doing a first aid class with Project 223 Preparedness during SHIELD Field Days. And I've got a couple of one-day classes like Getting Home, how to build a get-home bag and how to develop a plan for that. Baofeng Basics, just learning what the menus are and how to set up a Baofeng to use it at all. That's literally a half-day class, something to get people going. But I've got stuff going on all summer to get people out here. I didn't add in October yet, but let me tell you what October looks like. October, I will be at Mountain Readiness and then in North Carolina. Then 2 days after Mountain Readiness ends, I'm going to run Fieldcraft at Matt's place, followed immediately by the Scout and Recce course. So again, in a week and a half's time, you can get Mountain Readiness, Fieldcraft, Scout course, and Recce all in at once, and get all that kind of good stuff done. Check out the training page, make things happen. We still sell books, we still sell shirts. Get over there and check out my website.
Oh, very well, very well. All right. Let's move on to the Brush Beater store spot. So we're stoked to bring you another ad from our rock solid sponsor, the Brush Beater store, gearing up to dominate the dark. With threats lurking in today's world, from urban unrest to global instability, owning the night is non-negotiable. At brushbeater.store, their night ops course is your ticket to mastering low-light tactics led by MC Scouts. This hands-on training teaches you to move, shoot, and communicate under night vision, preparing you for any crisis. Classes are filling fast for the 2025 in North Carolina and beyond. I think what's he teaching again in Montana?
He's teaching it here next week.
Night ops, yeah.
Wednesday night and Thursday night, we'll be going out to the gravel pit and doing some night operations. And you don't have to have your own night vision gear to take the class. You can use what we have and decide what you want to buy. And we'll use things like the WLAD laser, the Designate IV, a whole bunch of them. So a lot of cool stuff, or Designate 4, I guess. We got all kinds of cool stuff. Just come out to the class and learn a little bit about it.
Yeah, their night ops class course is your ticket to mastering the low light tactics, led by Matt, NC Scout. This hands-on training teaches you to move, shoot, and communicate under the night vision, preparing you for any crisis. Classes are filling fast. Check brushbeater.store/collections/training-courses to secure your spot. To gear up, their night vision lineup is top-notch. And I'm a huge fan of the dual tubes, of course. Standouts include the BNVD 1431s Mark II. They have in the white phosphorus and auto-gated tubes for crystal clear views. And the L3 Harris BNVD 1531s. Those things are a beast for elite performance. Test these out in Yanceyville, North Carolina, or at Montana with Joe this week. There's in their showroom. You can they've got a dark room, so you can check it out. Make sure you understand how it works. You can trade up your old nods for cutting edge gear. Browse their full range at brushbeater.store. Use our exclusive code CFC10 at checkout for 5% off the Night Ops course. NVGs or any gear like radios or ballistic helmets. Orders over $100 shipped for free. Visit brushbeater.store and own the night. Huge thanks to Matt, owner, for his unwavering support and passion for the Council on Future Conflicts and our community's readiness is inspiring. Thank you, Matt. Head to brushbeater.store, use code CFC10, and train to rule the dark. Now, let's dive into today's episode. 5% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're spending, like $4,000 on a set of dual tubes, that 5% adds up. So
it does. And I wanted to mention something. I have it on pretty good authority based on my text messages that he was at the world's largest truck stop on I-80 yesterday. So he's about halfway here. That's going to be cool. Something else that if you come to his classes here next week, you can only get here. Miss Allie, our T-shirt designer, has made a Camp Ponderosa specific T-shirt that you can only buy on site. So it's very cool. It's Camp Ponderosa, Big Fork, Montana. It's got my logo on the sleeve. I'm going to try to convince her to put Matt's on the other sleeve for this week, but cool stuff.
That's awesome.
Also a CQB class coming up next week too with Kay from Combat Studies Group. If there's a guy who knows CQB, it's Kay. He's been there and done that, and former ground branch operator. Well, I put former in air quotes every time I mention it because, are you ever really out?
I know, right? Especially that place.
He said the other day that if the training business doesn't get back on track soon, he may have to take some of the offers he gets from them. So come take
I'm right there with you, Will and Corgi. My only chance of ever getting a set of dual tubes is if you guys use the code CFC10 a lot, and I build up some trade value over there at brushbeater.store. So.
I'll tell you, I have sold a lot of stuff for Matt, and I've never taken a dime from him because it comes back to me in boxes full of stuff. And so that reminds me, maybe I'll drop a link in here too. But no, we'll let Scott do it. Grizz, whatever.
I need to get an affiliate link. I don't have one.
I will get you one while he's here.
Okay.
Grizz, Ponderosa Steakhouse might be truer than you think, because every time we have this, Stan keeps threatening to come out here and cook a bunch of steaks for everyone who's here. And I'll tell you, the man knows how to make a good steak. So
I will say, if you're looking for reasons to come out, there is no small possibility that Watcher may be cooking a meal for folks over the weekend.
Yeah, this does happen. The Nephilim known as Watcher does make his way here, and we have a good time when Watcher is here. So.
Can I just say, gentlemen, that evidently the people with money appreciate the news from the weekend between the UK trade deal and the news of the China one kind of in the works. Because the market is up it's like 3.5% right now. And hey, I get it. That's not for everybody, but man, it's good for my retirement. So 3.5% in one day, I'll take it. I need some of that those gains back. All right. Gentlemen, let's move on with our main segment for the show here. Russian-Ukraine peace, part 7. I don't know why you didn't put that in the thumbnail. Part 7, I thought was pretty cool.
I actually, I don't think you'd put that in there when I made the thumbnail.
No, it was always
I
there. Anyway. So the first story up today is Zelensky challenges Putin to meet him after Trump demands Ukraine-Russia talks. So basically what Zelensky is saying, I want to meet you in Turkey and with a lot worse deal than I would have got if we had done it originally when Boris Johnson talked me into not going. You know, if he had made that deal back then, Joe, he would have got a way better deal. And he would have saved the lives of 500,000 Ukrainians.
Absolutely. But he didn't.
But he didn't. Let's see. Zelensky says he is ready to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin personally in Istanbul on Thursday for talks over ending the war. His post on X came shortly after Donald Trump demanded Ukraine agree to Putin's offer of direct talks between the two countries. There is no point in prolonging the killings, and I will be waiting for Putin in Turkey on Thursday, personally, Zelensky wrote. He had earlier said that his country was open to talks with Russia, and only after a ceasefire was in place, Western powers called for a 30-day pause in fighting to begin on Monday after European leaders spearheaded the so-called Coalition of the Willing meeting in Kiev on Saturday. We got more on that, too, by the way. Putin offered direct talk, followed the intervention. On Sunday, Trump then posted on social media that Ukraine should agree to this immediately, and it would provide clarity on whether there was a way to end the war. At least there would be able to determine whether or not a deal is possible. And if it's not, European leaders and the U.S. will know where everything stands and can proceed accordingly, he said, adding, have a meeting now. In his post, Zelensky said that he hoped Russia would agree to the ceasefire before the talks and await a full and lasting ceasefire starting from tomorrow to provide the necessary basis for diplomacy. I don't know that you need a ceasefire to have diplomacy, but that's just me. In a late-night address, Putin invited Ukraine to be part of a serious negotiations over the war, which began with Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Putin said he could not rule out the possibility that talks could result in Russia and Ukraine agreeing to a new truce, but did not address the calls for a 30-day ceasefire directly. The Russian leader said this would be the first step towards a long-term lasting peace rather than a prologue to the more armed hostilities after Ukraine armed forces get the new armaments and personnel after feverish trench digging and establishment of new command posts. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. If there's any sort of ceasefire, that's what both sides are going to do. Let's not be disingenuous and say one side's going to take advantage of the other. And yeah, while I think Zelensky could get new equipment from the West, I don't see a whole lot of fresh equipment coming out of Western arsenals.
There's nothing left on the shelf.
Well, that's just it. All the low-hanging fruit's been picked, and I honestly don't see them transferring high-end gear. Ammo is about as good as he's going to get, I think. You know, a fairly fresh supply of ammo coming in from NATO countries and NATO-aligned countries is probably the best bet that he could have.
The one good thing that comes from the Russo-Ukrainian war is the exposure of the myth we believed all along about logistics and what we would need to fight a peer or near peer military. We've been fighting goat herders for so long that we didn't realize what the expenditures would be like in a I'm going to use a Tom Clancy term, hyper war situation, right?
Yeah.
Ammo expenditures were about 10 times more than what we actually thought they would be.
Well, actually, it was way more than 10 times. I mean, they saw the way the Russians were pumping, like especially Bakhmut was kind of the high watermark for for what we saw with Russia doing this. Really kind of pushing, maximum amount of destruction in order to kind of get the human waves in, suppression of local defenses. Even if you're dug in, if you've got artillery falling on your head, you can't stick your head out. You basically have to stay in your bunker. And that's one of the lessons that the Allies had to learn with the Germans, right? Is that, specifically, I remember, Monte Cassino was one where they absolutely pummeled, or the German defensive Caen was another one. They pummeled that city and thinking that all the Germans are dead. And then only maybe 10% of the Germans were casualties because they were buried deep underground.
Okinawa comes to mind.
There's another one.
Okinawa was the largest bombardment we launched in World War II.
And it did relatively little.
It did almost no damage to the Japanese fighting ability on the island. So.
But it suppresses them. So the bombardments may not kill the bad guys, but you can suppress them. And if that's what you need to do in order to get that, for instance, in an amphibious phase of the operation, the most dangerous time is that, is that beach, from the littoral zone into the beach, right?
That was the beachhead.
Yeah. And so, once you get to the beachhead and you get kind of some initial foothold, then I won't say it's an easier fight, but it's not as hard as being out in the open, on the ocean. So if you're able to use that bombardment to get close, then, but the thing is, Joe, we got so used to all this precision stuff. We take for granted the actual amount of steel on target that it takes to do this stuff.
And I'll tell you, at risk of derailing the whole show, people don't realize how close of a thing Guadalcanal was. Our first amphibious operation of World War II. We almost got pushed into the sea, and the entire course of history would have been changed if we had been. So it is that important.
That's a good point. All right, moving on to the next one here. So in the meantime, what we're seeing in Ukraine on the verge of these peace talks and ceasefires and all that kind of stuff. So the State Department says that our top priority remains bringing an end to the fighting and an immediate ceasefire, and yet overnight exchanges of fire, especially drone attacks on a large scale, doesn't suggest the warring sides are any closer to a ceasefire. Despite that, over the weekend, President Putin proposed negotiations in Istanbul on May 15th. Zelensky responded by saying that he's willing to fly to Turkey to meet with Putin personally. I hope that this time Putin won't be looking for excuses to why he can't make it. We're ready to talk to end this war. I'll be honest with you. I think Putin has been ready to make a deal, but the problem is he's very distrustful of both the West and Zelensky. Zelensky's ultimately been spoiling for a fight until, just recently, after getting humiliated by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance in the Oval Office. I think he's starting to realize that he's running out of runway and he needs to take this either land this airplane or something. Let's see. Ukraine's Air Force said on Monday that Russia lost dozens of drones across Ukraine overnight. A statement detailed that at least 108 UAVs were sent, which included mostly Iranian-made Shahed drones. An additional 30 enemy drones were lost due to location failure with no negative consequences. Let's see. The military said it intercepted 60 of the Iranian suicide drones across the eastern, northern, southern, and central regions of the country, which that many still hit the targets.
Oh man, that's a pretty solid picture right there.
Yeah, the 50 cal with looks like a spotlight on the side of it.
Yeah, spotlight here. Is it two spotlights?
No, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's an IR spotlight.
Yeah.
Whew.
Things have been relatively quiet since Friday, given Moscow's unilateral declared 72-hour ceasefire in observance with W2 Victory Day events, which went off without an incident. Ukraine had seemed to hold to the ceasefire, at least by not sending large numbers of drones on Russia, as was the case the last week in the days leading up to Friday. You know, Joe, the one thing that makes me feel like that Ukraine may be willing to, you know, kind of wrap a bow on this thing is that they didn't go after the parade. You know, I think that would
ability, right?
And maybe we've seen them in recent weeks or months attacking some of these industrial facilities deep within Russia. So I don't know that I'm on the side of lost the capability. What I'm praying is that cooler heads are prevailing inside of Kiev. But you know, like they say in Missouri, show me.
Well, let me digress and say maybe cooler heads aren't what we need. We might need more aggressive heads in relation to internal politics in Ukraine. We might need somebody who's willing to remove Zelensky in order to end all of this.
All right, let me get back to also the leaders from Britain, France, Germany, Poland were in Kiev Sunday for more on that in a moment. For solidarity talks with the Ukrainian president. European leaders urged a show of support to Zelensky at a moment when 29 world leaders were in Moscow for the Red Square V parade, including China's Xi and Brazil's Lula. Ukraine and its backers, Ukraine and its backers, the United States among them, want an immediate 30-day ceasefire. And then, as we talked about the last story, President Trump has pushed for that. I'll be honest with you guys. I just don't. If prior track record is the future performance, I don't think we're likely to see this thing. That being said, I'm ever hopeful that aggressive or cooler heads, or however you want to turn it, people are able to put pressure on Zelensky internally that allows him to make the right call. I mean, even sitting down and not making it, would probably go a long way to.
I think not actively trying to make the situation worse is a good start.
That's a great point. Let's see. But we've got some themes going on within Western geopolitical thought. And one of them that we've kind of like always on this program kind of keyed in on that seemed particularly disingenuous to us was this idea that Russia is the biggest threat to peace in Europe. I think this is absolutely a false assertion that completely misreads everything. So let me read a little bit of this, and we'll kind of kick this ball around. After decades of relative peace in Europe following the end of World War II, a few notable exceptions, Russia's invasion of Ukraine served as a stark reminder that the specter of war is still alive. Within a few days of February 2022, millions of lives were turned upside down, and Europe's sense of safety was deeply rattled. The longer the war dragged on, the more Europeans became more aware Europeans became of the looming threat that Putin's Russia poses to European peace, especially after Donald Trump was reelected and immediately threatened to withdraw support for Ukraine and questioned the U.S. commitment to NATO, which had effectively shielded Western Europe from Russian aggression for decades, except for when Russia wanted to become part of NATO. According to a new YouGov survey, many Europeans consider World War III a possibility, with at least 30% of the respondents in France, Spain, Italy, Germany, and the UK saying that it's very or fairly likely that there will be another world war in the next 5 to 10 years. Joe, that is absolutely bonkers, considering the source that they're thinking that it's going to come. Now, if you said, "Oh, well, yeah, there could be a world war the next decade, and it's because of China," then I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
But that it's Russia.
Yeah, the odds of that are pretty slim. I really don't think that Russia's the big threat. I certainly think it's the other way around. It's China, not Russia.
If you look at, if you look at this poll on here, Russia is the tensions between Europe and Russia are vastly far further ahead in Germany, UK, and France than it is for people in the U.S. With Germany being 25 points ahead of where the viewpoint of tensions between Europe and Russia is. The interesting thing here is look at the tensions between Europe and the United States. France has a 20%. Germany is 21. With UK and the US matching each other with 11. So that's interesting. The psychology of both of those countries. Let's see. With respect to Europe, tensions with Russia are seen as the biggest threat by far. Around 50% of respondents from Germany, France, and the UK said that Russia poses a major threat to peace in Europe, while tensions between Europe and the US and between European nations are not perceived as imminent threats. I'm
going to disagree with their chart. That's more of a chart of media
perception.
Effectiveness, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Because Germany can't have tensions with Russia when Germany's existence at this point is solely at Russia's will, right? They get all their gas from there, a lot of their energy from there, and a lot of other exports from there. So you can't tell me that you're afraid that Russia's going to invade you and still be completely reliant upon them for everything.
Well, I think there's a strong argument to be made that both China and Russia was effective in some of their own information operations against Europe in order to get Europe to basically stop producing coal power, turn off their nuclear, and be reliant completely on Russia for natural gas in order to power their country. Let's be honest, that was a pretty masterful stroke of political warfare, essentially, by China and Russia to get somebody to agree to that. Lance Corporal Veteran for $10 says, "Do these not remember? Do they not remember the Cold War ended? It is as if it never stopped wanting to fight Russia. I still remember the war drum propaganda in movies and the video games since the 1990s." What's interesting is that very much that sentimentality lives rent free inside the heads of most neocons and a lot of your classical liberals or progressives in Washington. They're so wrapped around the axle that Russian people are white, so it's white men in charge. So the DEI mind absolutely plays into the fact that the Russians obviously have to be the enemy. But then again, there's also some Cold War influence there. So it's a multivariant kind of issue there. Joe?
You could tie it all back to the outstanding 1984 documentary Red Dawn. Which reminds me of an idea I had. I'll tell you in a minute. But yeah, this is just people wanted a boogeyman, and Bill Clinton had the opportunity to put an end to all of this by admitting Russia to NATO upon their request, Putin's first act, right? But he did not. And the idea I had is there's that giant rock in the middle of the campground that 8-foot tall rock. I think we should rename it Partisan Rock, just like it was in the movie Red Dawn. And it could be called the Mountain Partisan Rock, and Shield Arms could pay us for sponsorship for the rock.
There you go. Very good. All right. Any other thoughts on the perception that Russia is causing all the problems in Europe?
I think it's absolutely BS. It's almost like the American liberals here. It's raining today. Oh my God, Trump. It's the same thing in Europe. It's raining today. Oh my God, the Russians. Everyone knows who actually has the weather control machines. Oh wait, it's Mossad Monday. We're not allowed. Never mind.
Well, we have to take up for Netanyahu today on Mossad Monday. Evidently our boy Trump is giving him the the short shrift. So we need to get Trump and Netanyahu to make up and be besties again. But
what am I? Anyway,
what am I? Some kind of a mushugana? All right, let's watch this video. Now we talked about European leaders going to Ukraine. I guess they rode on a train, and on that train they have things that rhyme with train, such as cocaine.
Ha 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 ha. That's good. That's good.
I mean, it wasn't well delivered, but the cocaine and train thing is legit. Watcher, you want to play this video and just let the chat watch and see what they see. So what you essentially have is Macron and Starmer and the German guy, I forget his name, Merz, yeah. All sitting down in the train. And if you look in the middle of the table next to the cup, in between the cup and the blue folder, is this like white thing. It looks like a little baggie of something. There's also a spoon on the table. I don't know if maybe the spoon is not related to that. I don't feel like these guys are like shooting up like rock cocaine.
No, hold up. Look.
Oh.
Here was the spoon. And that spoon is of a very particular size.
Well, let's rewind it back and let's see that pickup again on the.
It's good. Yeah, right there. Boom.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. That was pretty quick. I mean, if they're saying it was like a tissue or something like that, but he wouldn't care about getting it out of the way. And you look at the look on his face. And he looks back, right there.
He's looking squarely at the camera like, uh-oh.
He's like, oh my God, I can't believe.
The biggest motion to me as a formal criminal investigator is what happens next. Watch Macron.
And he pockets it. And gets it out of it.
That's not a napkin he's trying to get rid of. He wouldn't put it in his pocket. That's a more guilty move right there.
Yeah.
And Steve, I see your comment. It could have just been a napkin. Why would you do that with a napkin? Who cares? Napkins are everywhere.
If
it was a napkin, he might be tempted to play with it or something like that, or just have it,
the devious
or keep it in his hand.
Here's the deal. If it were just that, I'd be fine. This clenches it for me. I'm sorry. You don't have a tiny golden spoon to eat your tiny, super fancy yogurt. You have that tiny golden spoon with that sachet of powder because the two are used in conjunction, which is why you both picked them up basically simultaneously. Watch. Like, it's almost synchronous. He grabs his. Boom.
I mean, if that was just a napkin, he would have just dropped it right there. Like, let it fall to the floor. It's now out of view of the camera. But switching hands and putting it somewhere else implies a desire to retrieve it later.
Yeah, I mean, but think about it this way: the age of these guys, all of them kind of grew up in a time when people were doing and they all went to elite colleges, just like Barack Obama. They all are leftists, dyed in the wool, and why wouldn't they do cocaine? They don't care. They have no moral. They have no moral compunctions about doing recreational drugs. I mean, they're also elitists, so they don't feel like the rules apply to them.
And everyone tells me, "Oh, that's just a stirring spoon." What were they stirring? They were drinking water.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, I mean, and on top of that, they know Zelensky, is that guy's doing cocaine.
Look. I think it's fair at the very least to say the following. If it were just a tiny spoon or just a weird thing on the counter, you could write it off as other furtive things, right? Note passing, some other kind of thing. But the two together is I believe what we call a preponderance of evidence.
Well, the other thing,
call it a clue, and I believe that when Macron makes that little hand motion, I would say this: Your Honor, based upon my training and experience as a law enforcement officer, his actions were furtive and were consistent with those who were hiding narcotics. That's exactly what I would say in the courtroom, and I would get the warrant I asked for.
Durna says they were stirring their brains, and I think that's
highly likely. Highly likely.
Let's see. I'm just reading a story here. It says video of Emmanuel Macron holding a white object during a meeting with his British and German counterparts has gone viral online, with some accusing the French president of concealing a bag of cocaine, and wild claims shut down by French media. Why would it be shut down by French media? The fact
that I was gonna say this is one of the most revealing things ever. You know what media is the loves a scandal, whether it's true or not. They love it. They love to run with it. It gets them views. It gets everything they could possibly need. Bringing up viewership numbers, you're bringing in ads, but they kill it every time.
Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, the fact that the media is the one running kind of cover for this makes me actually think it's more likely to be the case, because basically the media apparatus has reached out, or vice versa. The communications people inside the Macron camp have reached out to the media and say, hey, we need you to basically completely make this story go away. And in fact, just debunk it. Let's see. The video shared wireless as the world leaders pose for photos. The footage shows Macron quite quickly swiping a white object from a table with his right hand before discreetly moving it to his left beneath the table and out of view. Let's see. 3 men and a bag of white powder, one person wrote on X. So evidently that thing is not a spoon. There are higher resolution images, but it looks like something that could be used to dip it in the bag. And
I'm less concerned about the spoon or whatever it is as I am about those little bags.
That's right.
Could be mints, could be napkins, but you don't act that way with mints or napkins.
The action, his actions make me think he's suspicious or guilty. That, especially the look on his face, if I'm honest. That's what we call a poker face, or a lack of a poker face. Some people say, hey, if it's drugs, why did he immediately work to hide it? Well, it's because he forgot about it.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to.
If I was remembering the situation correctly, like they had been sent for, and then there was a gap between when they got sent for and when the aides actually went to get them, and then basically they got there and it seems like they had time to kind of drift off and forget that media was coming in the first place.
Well, and then there's all these photos going around online where it's been enhanced, but people will absolutely do anything to make something more of this. I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of, because the media was there with the video is not high resolution. Let's be honest, but some of the still photos were higher resolution, and it doesn't appear to be a bag. But I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna create headcanon here that says that it is absolutely a bag. because that fits my viewpoint of what these people are like. It's like, just because you don't find with a bag of cocaine in his pocket doesn't mean he doesn't do cocaine. He does cocaine. Look who he is. He married his tutor. The guy does cocaine. Come on. I mean, anyway, so just something to think about. Anything else on this, guys? Because there's some interesting stuff brewing in the internal insurgency, camp, and it's really interesting to see. Joe, I think we're going to see a lot of very activated Antifa types. They're not getting the numbers in the street that they want, so I think that's going to push them to go more radical in how they're acting.
Yeah, that's consistent with our friends over at Forward Observer too. You're going to see less militants in the street, but they're going to be more violent.
Well, and so before we kind of get into the more the Antifa kind of stuff, what I want to just point out is it's not just Antifa, right? So Major General retired Paul Eaton is not Antifa. He is a leftist U.S. Army general. He had stood tall in the anti-Bush crowd all through the GWAT. He never found a leftist politician that he couldn't support. And then, of course, he went full warmonger during the Obama years. So there's some irony there, kind of like a Code Pink general back in after he got out of active duty. I want to say it was around 2008 or so. This guy was the infantry commandant when I was in my infantry training years back in the early 2000s. And he says, so this is a different type. This is not Antifa. This is a kind of this more generalized, hey, we need to be ready to do civil war kind of stuff against the federal government, which is ironic because,
This tweet, I could take it in a courtroom and I could make a case here for seditious conspiracy.
Yeah, exactly.
Very simple.
He says state and local authorities must surround themselves with overwhelming force to protect themselves and their rights against federal overreach.
Now, he tried to use the right-wing term federal overreach to cover his statement. But the definition of sedition is using the force of arms to prevent the enforcement of federal law. That's literally what he's talking about. So that is seditious conspiracy right there.
Friend of the channel, Clay Martin, but down there below says, I can't wait to see you in the field. Quote, brother.
Yeah, right. I don't think you're going to see the good general in the field. He'll be more than happy to be safely ensconced away in his secure bunker while directing others. But this is, again, one more example of the point I keep making. If they're willing to say this in an open forum, you really have to be afraid of what they're saying to each other behind closed doors, which is generally going to be 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I like Don's take on this the best, and I don't even have to pull it up. I can remember it by heart. He retweeted this with the comment that, wow, it looks like we really are going to do Civil War II Electric Boogaloo. And ironically, it will be because the Republicans told the Democrats they can't have slaves again.
Well, there is some circle, it's the fourth turning, right? It's like all comes back around. Some of the
else here real quick before we move on. Durna makes a comment in the Rumble chat that says they aren't getting the numbers because 500,000 people died of ODs during the Biden administration. 100% true. And over the weekend, I saw a couple of tweets and private messages amongst Antifa people where they listed the contents of their med kits. And Antifa people generally carry Narcan in quantity in their med kits. I mean, wow. What does that tell you about the people they're recruiting, right? Well, there is rumor that that's how the Vikings got berserkers, right? Mushrooms.
What some of the people in the responses bring up that I'd just like to remind people is, hey, did you know that UCMJ still applies to retirees? I'm just saying. So you could literally be recalled to active duty and then tried under UCMJ as a retiree. So keep that in. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but if somebody were to do seditious conspiracy, say, against the federal government, that would absolutely be a way they could go after that. All right. So that I just wanted to set the stage for the kind of threats that exist. It's not just the Antifa, overactive college kids. There's former generals out there who, think you don't have a right to have the government you elected. So specifically, speaking of seditious conspiracy, Joe, we're going to share one of your tweets where you're bringing a little AOC action to the chat.
Now, I'll tell you, the good general had some potential for a legal defense on his. AOC has none for hers.
Yeah,
this is a straight up admission of seditious conspiracy.
Yeah, let's listen to this video.
And now what DHS is trying to say, again, they're using public intimidation because they know that they cannot come for us all. They know that they cannot come for us all. And recently what they said is that DHS is allegedly looking into arresting members of Congress who were showing up for their legal and constitutional obligation to conduct oversight. If anyone's breaking the law,
why
in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem. Because the people who are breaking the law are the people who are not abiding by it. And it is enshrined in the law that members of Congress who show up to ICE and CBP facilities are required to be granted access, legally required to be granted access. And they legally cannot be inhibited from accessing these facilities to conduct their constitutional obligation.
Pause it right here.
Investigate.
But that's not what happened at all.
All right.
They went there to intentionally grandstand and have a protest. They didn't ask to see a single sheet of paper, didn't ask to do anything other than cause a protest in front of cameras. So they were actually conducting oversight.
Yeah, Watcher, can you play the video on this one right here? This is what we're talking about here. And just remember, 18 USC 11, assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees shall, where the acts of violation of this section constitute only simple assault, be fined under the title and imprisoned for not more than 1 year or both, and whereas such acts involve physical contact with the victim of the assault or the intent to commit another felony, be fined under the title and imprisoned not more than 8 years. Now, the one in the red jacket, that is Democratic Representative LaMonica McIver. She broke into a New Jersey ICE facility and assaulted multiple law enforcement officers, violating that USC 111. She should be expelled from Congress and tried and put in prison.
So here's how that went. You see all those other people there, right? None of those people are Congress people with oversight authority. They brought all those people in with them. That's not lawful. And here's how the whole thing went down. They showed up, they came in, they began actually a protest, not an actual oversight thing, and they were asked to leave and they refused. Yes, the law says that the DHS has to allow them to show up for oversight, but the DHS also has a right to establish control of that facility. And if you are just there to protest, you're not doing oversight. And they have the right to ask them to leave.
Yeah, 100%. So,
I recall the last time a bunch of people trespassed on a federal facility, they were locked up with no contact with the outside world, sometimes for years, without trial and without a lawyer. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, so January 6th people were put in jail for over a year for way less than what this lady did.
Yeah.
And there's I mean, and she's shoving and she's putting her hands on them, kind of elbow checking them.
Yeah. Now she claims that was in response to others, but having seen the full video, no, she was throwing jabs first. So
yeah. So anyway, these are the threats that exist inside the country. So when you have that at the leadership tier of the U.S. government, does it surprise you that you have this at the, shall we say, the local level? Puget Sound anarchist, one of the Antifa cells in Seattle, has posted an after-action report following the domestic terrorist attack on UW, where they started fires and did over $1 million in damage to science equipment and property. We can no longer afford to be simple protesters. We must become combatants. Joe, they're literally saying that they're combatants.
Yes. Which would also make them unlawful combatants and therefore subject to summary execution at the point of capture. Oh, boy, better be careful what you wish for.
I know. Well, so listen to this. I mean, this is the clear admission to what they want to do. Support from passersby and motorists at around 10 p.m. A completely unintelligible dispersal order was given over a malfunctioning LRAD. In response, that, by the way, notice they used the correct terminology. These people have training; they know what they're doing.
And it's easy to say it was malfunctioning and unintelligible. How do you prove that one way or the other?
Right. Yeah, it's exactly right. In response, a massive fire was started at one of the barricades. This fire forced the police to entirely reroute their advance, delaying them severely. So they have identified barrier obstacle and they have a measure of effectiveness. This delay gave more than enough time for many within the group to disperse, as staying at the barricades would only result in an arrest and injury. The fire was slow to extinguish and effectively crippled the police advance. Over the next 1 to 2 hours, a highly militarized group of SPD, WSP, UWPD broke into the building, students from their lockdowns, or cut students from their lockdowns, causing either further damage to doors were broken, and windows had to be broken to access students. At the time of writing, 32 students were violently arrested inside the building, causing concussions, damage to limbs and joints, with at least one arrested of the group outside something Shabbat Hall, and the surrounding area was occupied for a total of almost 7 hours. The police response time was incredibly sluggish, allowing for a significant amount of direct action, i.e. damage, to take place, resulting in at least $1 million in damage, according to the university.
Imagine the irony of setting a barricade on fire to attempt to harm police officers and then whining that they twisted your arm a little hard when they arrested you.
Right. Now, Joe, here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. That is a highly competent act, essentially what happened. There's no propaganda in there.
No.
It's clearly somebody who, and here's the thing. When you start propagandizing within your own, you're internally yourselves, like when it comes to like, how effective were we? That's when that's an incompetent organization that does not long for this earth, right? Because they start to believe their own, drinking their own Kool-Aid. What these people are doing is a relatively small number of highly effective and professional people who don't engage on the front lines, but they do a lot of the majority of the planning and kind of evaluation of what's going on, probably training of the individuals who took place. These are highly motivated, politically align people who absolutely would preserve people like this and keep them from being kind of, exposed
at
to
that level,
police.
make no mistake, if you are a threat to their freedom, they'll kill you.
And they've done it before.
They've done it before.
Let's see. The resumption of the student intifada reflects the beginning of what must be done. The beginning of what must be done for the people of Palestine and all those affected by Western imperialism. A Zionist Twitter comment read, "These are not protests; these are soldiers ready for war." At first glance, this seems run-of-the-mill right-wing dramatics, but it echoes what our approach must be. We can no longer afford to be simple protesters. We must become combatants. An untraceable whirlwind of resistance that strikes at the heart of our enemy and vanishes into the night to fight another day. Those of you out there, and it's not the people in the chat right now, it's other people that don't think our world isn't resting on a knife edge. Your life where you live in the safety of your home is not resting on a knife edge. Think again.
These people want, and when you look at it on a grand scale, all over the country, everyone involved in these protests want a Marxist rebellion and overthrow of the United States. They say, well, that's okay even if they take over the Constitution. No, they want to destroy the Constitution. They want to completely redo what America is. And you need to understand that and be prepared to resist that.
Yeah, they hate America. You have to realize they hate America. And they want the whole thing to come crumbling down.
They speak about their rights when it's convenient for them, but I guarantee you that the moment they take power, you will lose your right to free speech, your right to weapons, your right to protection against search and seizure, because they know how they were able to pull off what they did, and they're not going to give you that opportunity. Stalin Stalin and Lenin being famous examples of that, right?
Right.
So.
Just Me for 1999 says AOC, the lady who cried Ed out of the fences. yeah, cried out of the fence of the ICE detention center because they would not let her in because she had not cleared it before she got there. Violates ethic rules at the $75,000 a plate dinner. Hey, you know what's interesting is that parking lot was in El Paso when I lived there. And the irony, Joe, is that parking lot she was crying into, like it was a bunch of migrants in there, was completely empty, and it was a different facility, and like they didn't have the migrants at that facility at the time, so it was entirely performative.
Yeah, they did the same thing here at the Kalispell Center recently, Kalispell Border Patrol Station, when Border Patrol arrested a bunch of illegals, including everyone's favorite Mexican cook around here. Well, he was here illegally, but they're like, you're protesting here, but we don't hold prisoners here. He's over in Spokane, Washington, so you're not doing any good. And they do it anyway. They don't care.
Let's move on to the next one. There's a
hold on before you. I did just want to say I know that this is an unpaid ad, but it's a good one, and I just like to say that if you were pepper spraying hippies here tomorrow, you'd be really well.
Watson's game is really good. They've been pretty solid the last 48 hours with those. One showed Kyle Rittenhouse and said, if you're defending your neighborhood from socialism, you'd be wearing a Watson.
I can't believe they haven't got him to wear one yet.
It'll happen.
Well, I'm curious what the dollar ask is to get
Not
somebody like him
for anyone.
Not cheap. I know to wear a. All right, let's move on to the next one. So these are two tweets kind of nested together. Watcher, if you could open the first one and let's watch the news report, because I'm just kind of the KOMO news. From Seattle. I'd just kind of be curious to see how they report this.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to say that, like, as a person who does a little bit of videography and photography, it's always impressive when you can capture an impressive figure, in silhouette against a firelit background, and that is not what happened here.
group stormed a building, set fires, and kept control of a part of campus until police moved in and arrested more than 30 people. The university says the damage is over $1 million. 21 students were suspended, prompting a rally on campus where their supporters demanded the university take no action against them.
It is correct to resist in the face of genocide and colonialism.
Speakers at Thursday's rally justified the damage and praised Hamas.
She had the drama kid voice. Did anybody else hear that?
Yeah.
She probably also had a ChatGPT written speech.
While saying violence was necessary.
On October 7th, planted the seeds of revolution in the oppressed and toiling masses of the world.
Why are they reading their speech? I mean, back in the day, in the 60s, nobody was reading a speech off of a piece of paper.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that's ableist, Scott.
So the red and white checkered one, that's a very specific cafe that's associated with the PLO. And I'll point out to the woman who was wearing it that if a woman tried to wear one of those in Lebanon, they would kill her. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. All right. Keep going. Watch her.
The world, we as all oppressed people should know that by now, that the violence is absolutely necessary.
In the Hamas charter, it's not just talking about Israel and Jews in Israel. It's talking about going out and killing every Jew in the world wherever you find them.
Regina Sassoon-Friedland is the regional director of the American Jewish Committee. She believes the protest should be investigated as domestic terrorism.
When you disrupt life like that and you're targeting, I feel that this is domestic terrorism. Free speech is one thing. This is not about free speech. This is about violence.
What's up with the dude just chilling and doing a little like Zoom call from the car?
That's bad. I just gotta say, what a silhouette.
More like not a silhouette, just a shadow. All right. So anyway, his basically one of the things that he kind of called out on that is the quote, violence is absolutely necessary, which kind of goes to what Joe was just talking about. And then, so just days after far left extremists urged for more violence at UW, an unidentified person or persons fired shots on campus, striking a dormitory. Nobody was injured, and the police are investigating. Joe, if they could prove that there is some sort of political motivation behind that, the speaker at that event that said violence is necessary should be held with incitement and
absolutely a conspiracy to commit. Solicitation to commit, right? Pretty simple cases to make. Her statement was easily solicitation to commit a crime, and if someone commits a crime following that, very easy to prove, because you get that person in an interview room, they'll tell you where they got the idea, and it was her.
Yeah. So this is the kind of thing that you have to be aware about. Like, like for me, like the way this impacts me directly is the fact that I have a daughter on her own in the States. And so while school's out now, when she was at school kind of on her own, I made her very aware of the kind of threats that are out there. And the kind of
location, we can get a pretty competent QRF to get her out if we do.
Well, the good news is I've got a pretty good group of guys in the vicinity that can help her out if the shit hits the fan. But that being said, you know how it is, Joe. When you're an hour away, you're an hour away.
Right. The funny thing about that is when Katerina went to Baltimore during some unrest for a college level event, and I lined up Cannon to go get her. Cannon called me like on day 2 and was like, "Hey, I just want to make sure that like your daughter knows I'm a large black man and she doesn't freak out when I'm outside the door." I'm like, "Yeah, she knows, bro. You're okay."
That's funny. That's real funny. And so, just in case you think that they're kind of stick with their whole like tried and true methods of, protesting and breaking windows and occupying college buildings, which has been a staple of leftist protesters in America since the 60s. They're going a little further than that. So this next one is Antifa accounts are sharing a guide on how to make incendiary devices that will burn cables used in infrastructure, like on train tracks. Antifa and anarchist extremists believe that domestic terrorist attacks must be used to destabilize and destroy the state. And so what you got here is burning cables for beginners. I mean, I don't have the link. I wonder if you could open that up. Okay, here's the website. Burning cables for beginners, aka anti-civ arson booklet. What's that?
Nothing. I just wouldn't personally visit that website with my own computer unaided.
Well,
VPN.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you use a VPN? Like I have to turn my VPN off to do this damn show. We've chosen not to make this text available as a PDF because we believe that if an arson guide is distributed in printed form, some people would inevitably keep it in their homes or in movement spaces, which the police would be happy to find during a repressive operation. Yeah, repressive because you're conducting fucking terrorism. Let's see. We recommend that you only read incriminating guides digitally using Tails. If you'd like to be able to read the guide offline, simply download the HTML file during a Tails session in the Tor browser. Right-click anywhere on the page and save page as, and then copy it as a, encrypted. Yeah. So basically,
the only problem with Tor's, Tails, and McCullough's Institute is while I support them. They also, the tool is there for both sides, right?
Yeah.
And
it's agnostic.
So that's okay.
Lost Core 23 for $10 says, Gooding CFC, end of the week 2 of the boy being home. Well, it's a good time. Anytime you can spend with your kids.
That's awesome.
Gene makes a good point in the YouTube chat. It's hard for normies to understand these people want violence. The nothing ever happens and it can't happen here syndrome of normalcy bias is big, right? It's like, well, yeah, these are just college kids talking, though. Right up until they take down the power grid in your town, or right up until they kill somebody in your town. The biggest example of this I'll use is Ukraine. In 2014, everyone said, it's just those college kids protesting in the Capitol again. And those kids didn't fight a big, giant war in the course of that weekend. They took over 6 buildings within a 12-block area and had overthrown the entire government. It's that easy.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a question in chat that I should probably answer for context. When in the document, it says open it in Tails, and people are wondering what that means. Tails is a version of Linux that saves nothing. It operates entirely on random access memory, and so once the computer shuts down, everything that happened is completely gone.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that that they do way better than a lot of the people on our side do. And I don't mean like the operator types. I'm talking about the kind of just the people who are the supporters of the movement. I mean, let's be honest. Think about what you do for cybersecurity and in your prep information, because I know it's true for me. I don't run Tails. I don't view all websites through a Tor browser and VPN sessions and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I have VPN on, but that's about it, right? There are a lot of things that you can do to make your use of the web way more secure. But that being said, I mean, it does provide a barrier, right?
For one of the homies, if you want to learn about Tails, the inside and outs of it, build your own custom Tails build and get all that going, take the Ground Rod 1 and Ground Rod 2 course.
Yeah,
from
it's all about that.
Combat Studies Group. He's hosted it here. He hosted it at Matt's. He does it all over. That guy will get you rethinking the use of your phone. I have one of his phones now. And your use of the computer. And you will get you will make your own Tails build so that you can be secure and invisible online. Right there.
All right. So here's one of the. I haven't really talked about this in a long time, but this is going to be my final kind of piece to this, and this specifically goes to not the kind of the world could blow up type of scenario, right? The more like shit could happen locally to you that is not happening like a town over. So you need to be ready for like the local shit, right? And that may not be a long-term thing. It may just be one afternoon, but it might be a very fucking exciting afternoon. So, and what I want to get to is the idea of cognitive biases, right? And one of the things that holds the most people back on actually preparing themselves and preparing a preparedness mindset are these cognitive biases. So I'm going to list a couple here. Confirmation bias, availability heuristic, overconfidence bias, anchoring bias, sunk cost fallacy, normalcy bias, groupthink, and negativity bias. I brought up notes from one of the things I was going to write for locals that I never got around to finishing writing. I've got a whole folder full of like things to write, but the idea here is confirmation bias, for instance, is seeking or favoring information that supports pre-existing beliefs. So for instance, if Joe says it, then it's more likely to be true, right? So there's nothing wrong with trusting somebody that you know to be a good source. But when it comes to opinions, make sure you always take all opinions with a grain of salt because they're just opinions. Preppers should challenge assumptions by seeking diverse perspective. Availability heuristic, overestimating the likelihood of events based on vivid or recent memories, i.e. Preparing for a rare disaster because it was in the news. Teach preppers to assess risk using data, not headlines. And so it's not
an area study, right?
Right. That's exactly right. Knowing what's likely to happen in your area, right? Like, the things that Joe are going to experience aren't going to be the same things that maybe somebody in a big city are going to experience because the environments are very different. And so are the threats.
None of you need an avalanche plan. I do. I got mounts on both sides.
Or a daily bear,
preparation for bear battles, right? Yeah.
Overconfidence bias, believing you know more than you do or underestimating risk. And so I'll be honest with you, guys who fall into this the most are guys like us, right? The ones who I've been there and I've done that and I've got the t-shirt. And so I don't need to worry about things as much, right? I find myself falling into this one on a regular basis. But the fact that when you notice that you're falling into a cognitive bias, then you're almost all the way of being able to ride on through it and get out of it. But once you become aware of these, you'll start seeing them all the time. Anchoring bias, relying too heavily on initial information when making decisions, sticking to outdated plans because they were the first considered. Preppers should regularly reassess plans based on new information. Joe, you've seen this a lot. Like, it's like you jump at the first thing you hear, and once your mind gets in the set of that, hey, okay, we're going to do X. And then you ignore information that would have led you to do Y, which ultimately becomes the better option, Yeah.
Well, I also try to tell people to get into a position where you're not necessarily beholden to such a job. Like if something starts to happen, I could leave town and everything's not as bad as I thought it was. I could just come back.
Right. Well,
not true.
Yeah, so. And this goes back to the whole of always reassess, always come up, and never get married to an idea, especially one of your ideas. Right? We all, not NIMBY, not in my backyard is one of those kind of things. So it's like, oh, it's not me, so it's not a good idea, or I came up with the idea, so it's great. Let's see. Sunk cost fallacy is another one that guys like us who have put a lot of money into preps or something like that. It's like, Joe, it's like your preps are all local, but oh shit, this is something like that forces you to leave. Like you don't leave because you've got so much stuff here, but you have to leave. So it's kind of like you get into that.
So much stuff in one place that you can't leave it. Yeah.
Yeah. Continuing course of action because a past investment. Teach preppers to cut losses and prioritize current needs. Let's see. Normalcy bias, assuming things will always function as they have. This is probably the number one thing for new preppers that you just, it's like you don't see the likelihood of the world going, pear-shaped. Well, shit, it happens, So you gotta kind of get out of that mindset that the sun's going to come up and everything's going to be fine tomorrow.
It's all gonna be good. Yeah.
Groupthink, conforming to a group's belief to avoid conflict, even when they're irrational, e.g., following a prepper community's dogma without question. This is something that I think everybody within the space has to kind of, especially when it comes to like a specific kind of like niche areas. Like all the people that I know like AKs, but I like ARs. So I'm going to buy an AK. No, you should buy the AR because that's what you prefer. That's what you like better. And vice versa. Some people are AR people, and then but they should buy an AK.
I'm equal opportunity here. So.
Amen, brother. They're all tools to me. Let's see. Negativity bias, focusing on excessively on threats and worst case scenarios, leading to paranoia or burnout. Basically stockpiling for apocalyptic events. But neglecting daily needs, right? Like,
So this is the biggest, this is where like my philosophy of not preparing for one big event, but preparing for the second and third order effects of any event actually come in handy. What are you most likely to face? Everyone's, I'm ready for the end of the world or Chinese invasion. Yeah, but you're more likely to face a power outage, which is also a side effect of an invasion by whomever. Right. So if you're just ready for a power outage, you're 9/10 of the way down the road. Right.
So anyway, these are just some of the kind of cognitive biases that I think are most kind of relevant to what we do. I got a list of a bunch more, but I don't have the definitions. But anyway, so that's one of the things. And what I want to do is, and I talked about this last week. This kind of gets to the point about how, despite the fact that the country is in a way better place than it was a year ago, that don't get into the normalcy bias that you operate. If anything, these domestic terrorists are way more motivated than ever to disrupt exactly what they say, the fabric of American society. They want to tear it all down.
American society is in a better place, but the risk level has actually gone up. Because they're that much angrier about it.
So anyway, I will, when I have time, I will write all these. I just, it's a full-time job, so it's kind of hard to do all this stuff. Gentlemen, that's all I got for the show today. Hour and 48 minutes. I feel like I've returned some of the time back to the folks. Joe, looking at your crystal ball for this week, anything come to mind?
I'd watch for some continued militancy by the pro-Palestine people, which, by the way, that's just Antifa. They've just rebranded. They've lost the George Floyd momentum. They're going to jump on to the pro-Palestine momentum, which carries us lots of other places. So just understand those are the same people, and they're going to be out and getting more and more militant. I'm going to watch for this statement by Donald Trump to actually drive some more anger between India and Pakistan. Watcher pointed out the video there. He came out and said, I just stopped the nuclear war between India and Pakistan. That's not going to sit well with Modi. So I would expect to see something come of that.
I don't know. I think Modi knows what Trump is and basically takes all that stuff with a grain of salt. But it may not sit with Modi supporters, though.
As I say, Modi himself might very well think that, but his people are going to demand something.
Yeah. Watcher.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they're also still probably reeling by getting mocked by China on behalf of Pakistan. That was I was trying to show you guys that this morning. It was pretty hilarious. If you guys haven't seen it yet, it's
evidently China's pretty happy with how Pakistan did with their gear. So there's talks of China fast tracking, some more up-to-date hardware Pakistan's way. So that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out and what Pakistan then does with that.
Yeah, and then, well, real quick, just a little taste so you guys can get some. China decided to put on their best Bollywood. I'm not gonna lie, it's better than anything I've seen on SNL in a long time. Okay, I'm about done with that, but still.
Well, it's no AK Wally.
Well, and it's not the artillery thing that we saw earlier in the week either. I don't know if y'all saw the Pakistani artillery guys. That was something.
I have something to end the show with. Very rare. I mean, it's at the end. It's past. It's where I at the 2-hour mark. So it's not. Let's watch this. I thought this was funny. Joe, you're probably going to get all spicy.
No, this is hilarious.
So that's pretty much it. And then he leaves right after that and was shot in the street afterwards. Because of course it was. I thought that was pretty fucking funny. All right, gentlemen, that's all I have for today. I thank you for joining me, Joe and Watcher. Chat, you guys.
I got one more prediction.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I predict that on Wednesday I'll probably have a guest with me on the show.
Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to that. It's been a couple weeks since we've had the man on the show. The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
Right there on the couch with you, right down the hallway there. I think.
We'll either do it there or over in the mess hall.
Oh yeah, in the mess hall. That's right. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe you can have a live studio audience with you there.
We definitely will over the course of the next 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. All right, guys, thank you very much. Chat, you guys were killing it as always. Thank you for the generous donation. Sorry that we didn't have the ability to project the Rumble chats as normal. We were having Rumble issues today, so I think we did the best we could on that. Hopefully, that'll be fixed for next time. Okay, so gentlemen, that's all I have for today. If you would be so kind as to subscribe to the channel, both on YouTube and Rumble, hit the bell for notifications, like the video, and tell your buddies about our channel. Let them know that you're getting good stuff over here. All the support you can help us with. YouTube does not love us for sure. Rumble likes us, but at the same time, we don't have any kind of ad budget or anything like that. So word of mouth is literally all we have. So please help out if you would. Guys, thank you. Chat, thank you. And as always, stay safe.